Item 21 talks about some general things, though, for committees. I'll just mention, even though we'll discuss them later on, one of the important things I think for this committee, though, is establishing and publishing a meeting date on a regular basis. I think the fact that the committee did not have regular meetings probably contributed to some of the misunderstandings or some of the things that happened, yeah. And so I'm going to be recommending that, and I would hope that this committee, if reinstated, will start off by trying to establish some regular meeting dates so that not only all committee members can then take part in the decisions that are made, but also the community can take part in the meetings as well. That's my only comment.
I just have a few comments with regards to, first off, membership on the committee. I do believe that a committee can't be a committee of 2 or 3 people. So we need to make sure that we're sizing the committees appropriately and that we do our best to get people in the community out to participate in these. If we can't get that type of interest in it, then I think that when we have our discussions, we should set a minimum level for the committee to continue to exist. That's my personal comment. Secondly, I've said before, not only with regards to this, but in other items, the committees exist to support the council. The council refers items to the committees do research, provide recommendations, and pass information back to the council for the council to make decisions, hopefully in a timely manner. For the most part, there is a council member on every one of the committees. The council members are responsible and accountable, from my perspective, and I hope from your perspective as well, fellow council members, that the council member needs to make sure that the committees are operating appropriately, and to where there is issues associated with the execution of a committee. I believe the council members also bear some responsibility in moving forward, and I hope as we have our conversations on the 5th of May that we embrace that and document that appropriately.
I think it's undeniable that this committee has done a lot of good work. But I think if you've read the reports and, in my case, made a public records request for the documentation to look at this further, it's also undeniable that this committee violated a lot of town rules and did a lot of things that were not appropriate. You can blame staff, and I don't think that's really appropriate. And you can blame members of council, and that's somewhat appropriate. But really, it was a committee that was a runaway committee, and no amount of good can compensate for what happened here. We had a committee that was making contracts, which by the existing policy that was in effect at the time were not legal. We had contracts without signatures. We had contracts that would not have been legal and were purposely entered into with an entity knowing that they would not be legal with the town. It was theorized that our former finance director approved it, but I sent an email to that person, and it is clear that that was not the case. She actually says that she did nothing more than, and knowing her, I could totally believe it, clearly just reiterated what the purchasing policy was. And yet this contract was given to another outside town entity in order to avoid town policy. And not only were the people paid, and these are young people, paid $10, $12 an hour, which many of us would like to see. and many people today would like to be employed at, but the town paid a premium, a percentage premium markup on it for the price of the illegality. There were no minutes for months and months and months, even prior to the staff member leaving this committee posted. There were actions, many actions, taken outside of the meetings. Part of it is due to the fact that I do not know that there was ever a meeting held at the scheduled time in accordance with the meeting date that is on the schedule that we find in our rosters for this committee. It was always at an odd time. And I know that for a fact because it took me about 4 months before I started getting notices. They didn't even count me as absent, even though I was appointed to the committee. The websites listed not only inappropriate matter that was never voted on by the committee, moreover, it wasn't even council policy. It was in violation of council policy and was used as a private pulpit. And there are a number of websites, and at least one of them is not owned by the town, though the town paid for it, and needs to be changed. And I don't know that that's taken place yet, but before this committee becomes reactivated, it should. Before this committee becomes reactivated, it should be trained in the policy of purchases and should have no access to funds. Before this is reactivated, it should be mandated that minutes are posted and regular meetings be held with appropriate notice, not only to the public, but to its own committee members. And the number of websites, I think, needs to be reduced. There are, I believe, 3 different websites, and at least one of them is a forum for open discussion that is totally outside the control of the town, and yet it's a town website. And I think without any kind of town monitoring, that is inappropriate and should be shut down. There were many actions taken outside of meetings. While there were no formal minutes, I did attend those meetings, and I can tell you that the actions that were taken bared no resemblance to the actions that occurred at those meetings. I do know of one meeting where we took a vote on an expenditure and specifically decided that that expenditure was not going to take place. And yet when I got a copy of the bills under the my request for documents, it had occurred. So I think that this is a committee that does a good service in many ways for the town, but does a disservice to the rules of this town. And before it comes back up, and I think it certainly should because it's an important committee, but it needs to be trained in how to obey the rules of the town, just as it wants people out there to obey the rules of good environmental stewardship.
Okay, do we have any public comments with regards to this item? Come on down.
Charles Wuxala, 33 Emily. I haven't seen the report, so I'm not sure with Councilmember McKee that some of the comments about things weren't specific enough to me to actually be able to address, but I'll do my best. The EPC was started in '99 when the town had to meet a mandate to reduce waste reduction by 50%. And at that point in time, the city manager started it, and the minutes or the agendas came from staff. Residents were brought together to work to create a demolition ordinance, which became a state template. It was so successful, and our town became in compliance through the efforts. And then the EPC, at the time we were called the Waste Reduction Committee. In 2006, climate change became a major topic. There was a thing called the Mayor's Climate Protection Plan. We agreed to sign that, and we renamed the committee from waste reduction to environmental programs to address a lot more issues in greening the town and creating programs. During that time, from 2006 to 2009, I'll say I chaired the committee as a council member. I worked with staff. We had meetings scheduled, and we met every 2 months or every 3 months, but we had a date on the Wednesday at 10 a.m., so there was always a scheduled time. I don't understand how things have gotten out of hand that those meetings somehow weren't, but we had a published time to meet, and we adhered to it. And the agenda I would often get from Kathy Hughes Anderson, who did a phenomenal job with our ordinances and helping us implement programs with green building and many other, our watering programs, anything coming down the state, Kathy was very much on top of. And actually donated a lot of time as well to some of the programs we were doing. But she would send me a list of what she saw as a topic and then ask me if I had anything else to add to it. So those were done, there were minutes done. We had a budget, and I worked a lot with Councilmember Carlson on that to make sure that those funds that we had accountability for and that they were adhered to in a very strict manner as far as what we were going to spend any town money on. Valerie Gardner, who has been very, very effective for the EPC, raised a lot of money through donations to help the EPC. She donated a lot of time on websites because she's very good at building websites for free. So the town benefited. The Atherton Green website is one of the ones that I know about, but it became a forum where we held, Yale University started these, and we started holding them in Atherton, were nights where people could come and discuss climate issues, and it did turn into a forum. It was set up so that it could be separate so that people could say, hey, where do you find a green water heater? And we wouldn't have to go through the town policy to answer that question because you might be wanting that now with that much control. So it was done so that it was not part of the town and separate so that it had that autonomy to answer those type of questions. So on that end, I feel like it's not been a runaway committee. It's done it. It's also worked hard to address, there's a program which I'm not sure if this is the contract because I haven't been involved for 2.5 years, with Actera. There's a state matching grant. We put up our funds to do home energy audits, and there's a program that Actera is pointing at. I don't know if that's where the $10 or $12 an hour come from to pay people to go to homes to help people in Atherton, where we're the largest consumer of electricity, to be able to figure out how to reduce what they do. But I know that Valerie was instrumental. She volunteers a lot of time with Actera, and we presented that, we debated it. There should be minutes of all of this that were available. And that program hopefully won't be destroyed by what's happened here because it's matching. The state's giving us money. We spent a lot of time coordinating with other groups to make that happen in other cities. I think Portola Valley, Woodside, and Los Altos Hills, we all combined to make us large enough to get the matching grants. And on that end, I'll just end it because I feel like it's been a very effective committee, and the people that have volunteered on it have done a great job of giving a lot of time and energy to make it successful, and it shouldn't be a case where their reputations are harmed for whatever reasons. Thank you.
Charles, the report was posted on the website. It should still be there.
I didn't know that, so I haven't seen it. I'll go back to my phone. Thank you.
And in the last meeting, the Actera people were here and they made a presentation trying, because we got 2 more days, I think, to get people to sign up.
Thank you.
Any other public comments with regards to the Environmental Programs Committee? Seeing none, we will come back to the council for its final discussion and vote.
Sure. I will make a resolution that we reinstate the Environmental Programs Committee, subject to training and our purchasing policy, subject to their turning over ownership of that website that was paid for by the town to the town, subject to their closing down the website that has no monitoring by the town, subject to their being trained in town policies as to what Brown Act and means and conducting business outside of a meeting, and subject to their having regular meetings with the proper notice. I think that's everything.
Mr. Mayor, before somebody seconds that, staff will have a problem with the website turnover and closing the monitoring because the committee doesn't do that. It has been in different situations. One of those is I'm not a technical person. We may have paid for them, the town may have paid for them, but EPC doesn't run them or own them. And in one case, they do own like a blog, a Yahoo users group. That's theirs. We don't own it. They stole our name. They're unlawfully using our name, perhaps, but they do not own it, and we do. And they own it, and we do not.
Well, I think they should be requested to stop unlawfully using.
It's not the committee that is doing that. It is outside individuals, and I have made that recommendation that the town look at a policy of going back and after these sites, because they are problematic.
What is the name of the group that was sending out the emails without?
Atherton 2020, is that?
No, it's not the 2020, it's
The
Atherton.
Athertonian?
Atherton, no, it's not Athertonians.
There's an AthertonGreen.net site.
AthertonGreen.net.
And isn't that an APC group?
AthertonGreen.net was the Yahoo users group that.
Yes.
We don't own it. That is owned by somebody separate.
And who owns it? I thought that was
I would have to go back and look at the.
I thought the Yahoo, I don't have the report in front of me either, but I believe the Yahoo users group may have been owned separately by Valerie Gardner.
One was registered in her name.
One is registered in her
and
name.
not paid for at all by the town?
That's correct.
It was.
That one was paid,
Well,
not the Yahoo users group. Not the Yahoo
that
user
one is
group, we
actually
don't own.
free.
But I'm not talking about Yahoo users, I'm talking about Green.
The Atherton Green Network, which has become.
I don't have my notes with me,
It's an
so I can't,
unmonitored-
but it's the one that,
There is one instance in which case a correction does need to be made.
yes, there is one, and there's another that has an interface, I believe, that is registered with the town and owned by the town, but still not moderated by the town.
Correct. We pay for that, and it is unmonitored by anybody, and it is a free-for-all for
And that's the
exchanging.
one I believe needs to be closed.
But that is, EPC doesn't control that, the town does.
But we have
That's
no
my point.
control over it, and that's the one I think no one moderates it.
Nobody
Why
moderates
can't
it,
we
but
put a
EPC
block on
does
it?
it.
Why can't we put a block on it?
If we paid for it, we can put a block on it.
Yes, okay.
But not EPC can't do anything, they don't have authority to do that.
Then we'll put a block on it. That's what my motion is. We'll
But what
put
I'm
a
trying to
block
say
on it.
is,
Kathy,
that's not on the agenda tonight.
No,
That is a
point of
separate
order.
issue that we pointed out.
It's on the agenda as a term of reinstatement.
You can't put a term of reinstatement on the EPC that they can't control. They don't have anything to do with that, the town does. And that's one of the recommendations that is in our staff report that says, we think that the town needs to look at several of these issues. That's not on the agenda tonight. It is something that we need to look at, and we need to have staff recommendations on each of those websites that we believe to be inappropriately being used. But it has nothing to do with EPC, because they don't own them, run them, or control them.
Atherton Green is owned by the town?
We do, yeah, we own
Town,
them,
not the EPC.
Okay.
correct.
But it's used by the EPC.
No, it is used by residents to go online and exchange ideas. It could be EPC members using it too.
My understanding is that the town would be able to take that action separate from the EPC.
Right.
It's theirs.
Kathy, can I say, I agree with you, everything you're saying, except I don't think tonight that's what we're doing. I think tonight, we're reinstating the EPC, and as we don't have an EPC at the moment, we can make rules for the EPC.
Sure.
Would
Yeah,
cover some of
But
these
Jim,
things.
if we don't do it all now, this will never be done.
Well, I'm just.
And if we're saying reinstatement of the committee, it doesn't say, just the committee.
Well,
This is
we-
us dealing with
Well,
the
we-
problem of the committee,
we
and this
can
is
just-
one of the
We
problems.
can just table this until we have a proposal that says the conditions under which the committee will be reinstated. And I think I would be happy to table this motion and redo it.
That's
under the
fine.
circumstances.
If you want to put it in as that, and so we can deal with it all at once, that's fine, but we need to deal with it all.
It needs to be a separate item, because it really has nothing to do with EPC, other than in some instance it may have been created or suggested by them. But for instance, the green one has gotten totally away, and it sits out there where people come in and go out with environmental suggestions, but we own it. And again, please note, the report says we agree that we need to take action. We agree that I don't care if you do away with the EPC or don't do away with the EPC, we still need to take action on those websites, because they are.
It doesn't say anything about taking action on the
Not
green
tonight.
website.
Not tonight.
No,
It says
it
the town
doesn't.
needs to take stock of all the websites and establish a policy for determining who has access to any and all of them. That is in the report, but it is really it's not for action tonight, because we haven't agendized it where people can come in and comment about some of these are good, some of them aren't good. But we agree with you that this is a problem that needs to be fixed. We just didn't agendize it tonight because the issue that the council asked us to bring back was whether or not to reinstate the committee. And that's totally separate from the websites that have gotten just all goofed up.
Then why is Atherton Green all over the EPC website?
I think that that's where it probably started. And it started as ours, and it was supposed to be monitored and moderated, and it just over the years has gotten away. But we own it, we control it, and we can shut it down. EPC has no authority to shut down any websites.
Well, there is no
And
EPC.
there is no.
That's exactly right.
Website anyway.
You know what?
There's no EPC website. The EPC.
Oh.
My understanding is
No.
all of that has been.
There isn't.
The EPC
We shut
website was
shut down the EPC
Has
website.
been for a while.
Well, so we
Okay,
shut that down
I will,
without-
I will leave my motion as it is, to the extent we can keep in there what's legal, and I will ask that the other items be considered on our future agenda.
And just for clarification, and I was writing at the time, I think that the city manager was recommending that all of the committees ultimately get the same training that you've outlined tonight. But the question is, do you want that training to occur before they are reinstated?
Yes.
So Kathy, we can table this motion,
Well, I don't want it tabled.
but we can table it until such time as the town staff has come up with their action plans to take care of the problems that you're bringing up, which were previously associated with the EPC.
A question here, you want the training to proceed, reinstatement. Well, there's no committee, who are they gonna train? Who's gonna be trained?
There is a committee.
No, there's no committee,
No EPC.
no EPC committee.
Well, there is a committee of members, the
No.
former committee.
Well,
There are 2 council members who have been appointed to it.
Mr. Attorney, I ask you how that's
Suspended.
It is somewhat problematic. I think that it's, chicken or egg, which comes first. And I think you have to have a body to be trained. And I can't expend town resources and funds going in and training, my time, and going in and training them unless there is an appointed body. And I think that if you want to withhold their authority to do anything until they're trained, that might alleviate the problem, but still reinstate them as a body, but they have no authority until such time as whatever problems you think need to be worked out, including training.
And that'll take care of it.
Well, if I could make a recommendation. We've got this meeting on the 5th of May. And in that meeting, we are going to understand what each committee does. We're going to agree what each committee does and give them rules for how they want to operate. And I'd like to perhaps say that at that meeting, we will invite the former members of the EPC, although I think we just suspended it, so I don't think that they've all been fired. So they're still members of the EPC. They can come to that meeting and we can talk to them about what the training requirements, get them to agree to it and reinstate it at that time, as we are quote unquote reinstating every committee at that time, or potentially terminating a committee.
That's fine with me.
That also allows time for staff to come back with their discussion on what they're going to do with regards to the websites. Now, do recall, I realize it's not agendized to talk about that today, and I'm not proposing that we do, but when we decided to suspend it, we shut down the website.
Wonderful.
But we did it, and I don't believe it was something that we actually made a motion to do, so.
No, actually, ahead of the meeting, the city manager shut down the website, ordered it to be shut down.
But it wasn't discussed at a public forum where people could come and weigh in.
No, it was not, and he took action because at the time, it was determined that there was information on the website that didn't meet the criteria that should have been followed before it was placed on there, and as the person running the town, he took it upon himself to essentially require that that website be shut down. Now, it certainly, I agree, needs to come back to the council sooner, not later, because as Ms. Larson reported in my recommendations, it is very problematic. And by the way, it includes one where we don't own it, we don't run it, it's not affiliated with us, and it uses the name Athertonian, which, as a matter of fact, is a trademark, is a common law trademark name that we use for our newsletter, and we beat them in terms of who used it first. And so I need to come back and ask the council, because some of these could end up in litigation. I need to come back and ask the council how to proceed on those individual items. That's why, I mean, I'm not disagreeing that they're problematic today, and we should look at them. What I'm saying is we can't take action because we haven't outlined what our intended action might be.
All right, so again, I would like to suggest, with the motion, that we invite the former members of the EPC to come to the meeting on the 5th and discuss their proposed rechartering of the EPC, and the council give the direction on the training as they're going to give every council, every committee. This is what you're going to need to go through if you're going to continue to be a committee.
Basically, you're tabling it till May 5th.
It's only 2 weeks. and
Yeah,
that way we're
that's what I
covering it,
said.
yes,
You're
yes.
basically, you're tabling it till May 5th.
Unless somebody disagrees.
But Mr. Mayor, I think it's totally appropriate to invite the previous members of the EPC. My solution would be, if we're reinstating the EPC, that we also ask interested parties to come and present the names so that we can then have a formally elected EPC that we can then go through with training or whatever other procedures, rules and procedures. I think to invite the former members of the EPC, I think we'll get into a lot of discussion, not all of it pleasant, and I think that they may or may not be the future members of the EPC. And to me, what I'm interested in is training the future members of the EPC, who I don't know who they are at the moment.
Well, we suspended them, we didn't terminate, if I remember the, so I think they
Mr.
still
Mayor,
are.
I think you're correct. They still exist as committee members of a committee that has been suspended, not terminated or eliminated. Because remember, those options were on the table to eliminate the committee, and the city council chose to suspend them, and
Pending this discussion.
pending this.
That's right.
Yeah, you even appointed 2 council members. So,
Right.
I second that motion. It's fine with me. And I would add that, I would hope that we could add as an agenda item for our May meeting dealing with these websites.
What motion are we voting on?
In addition to your motion?
It was Bill's motion.
Could we read the motion, please?
That we, basically, that we put it off till
May
May.
5th
Oh,
meeting.
that's fine.
May 5th,
Invite
no
the
problem
EPC
with that.
members.
That's fine.
May 5th meeting, the people that are on the suspended committee get invited to come back to the meeting, as we're inviting every council, every committee members to come and discuss the roles of their committee, as well as any stipulation that the council has for that. Okay, is that?
And I think I heard Councilwoman McKeithen add on to the end of that a suggestion that we come back at the May meeting. could I beg for another month? And the only reason is because between now and the May meeting is the city attorney's meeting where I will be out of town, the assistant will be out of town, and this is one where it's complicated enough that I would like to do it right, and I would like to do it and be able to go out and talk to some other cities like Palo Alto that's very big in websites and things like that to make sure I understand the process of what we would need to do to accomplish what I think we should be doing.
You know, my only problem with all this is that Athertonian's website has been going on now. We can't stop it. And it's being used, as we all know, for a lot of, in my mind, somewhat nefarious purposes. And we're not stopping it. And a lot of people in Atherton think that it's an Atherton condoned website. They think it's coming from Atherton, that it's run by Atherton and it's an Atherton opinion, and they don't understand that it's not an Atherton sanctioned website with Atherton facts.
Yeah.
And they're doing things and signing things and acting in accordance with that information, and that is hurting.
That will
The
be
town.
that will be the most problematic of all the websites because we don't own it, we never owned it. We don't run it, we never ran it. We don't staff it, we've never staffed it. Yet, they do have a name that confuses the public, confused me. And I had a report that says what it was, and I had to keep going back and figuring it out. I totally agree with you, but I believe that one is going to take some digging because there are supposedly five or six people that run it and moderate it
And don't wish to
and
be
run-
known.
And don't wish to be known, and so we may need to file litigation to get a court to order that we can go to one of the search engine people and get them to research. I'm told that they can figure out who owns it, who runs it, where their address is.
And your report says that, like, they don't wish to be known because they may be making mistakes, and they don't want people to
why
know
don't
they
we
made a
just
mistake.
go
I mean, that's
ahead
pretty
and-
terrible.
Let's go ahead and start the procedure to shut it down. I mean, rather than talking about it, let's go ahead, and we know that they're using the name Athertonian name illegally. Let's go ahead and get started on shutting it down.
Or at a minimum, Bill.
It's not on the agenda, so the council can't weigh in. And secondly, I don't mind starting the process, but starting the process for me means figuring out what really the process is. And that's going to take some time because this is an area that I have no expertise in, and it's going to take us a little bit of digging to get down to how we're going to do that. But I totally agree that I want to put this on the earliest agenda to get authority from the council to do whatever we need to do, up to and including filing litigation, that then we might be able to use discovery rules to get to who owns it. And I can file a litigation against those 1 through 100, and I don't have to name them, and I can publish summons in the newspaper. But again, that all takes time, and I want to get this started the same you do, but I want to figure out the process so we don't have to start down the road and come back and start
And we
over.
can call a special council meeting if you need authority, Bill. So we've been talking about this for quite a long time. I think it's high time that we did something, rather than just talk
Yeah,
about it.
it's been 6 months. One thing that we can do, that is within our authority, and I think we owe to the people of this town, is that we do have a legal website. And I see nothing wrong with, on that website, having a notice that simply says, there is a website that goes by this name, it is not run by Atherton, it is not our information, it is, there's no reason why you can't say that it's run by a group of 4 or 5 people who desire not to be known, and we have no control over it.
You're indicating on the town's website,
Yes,
not the EPC
on the
website.
town's
We can
website.
do that tomorrow.
Put out a notice
Sure.
of what you know about this site, that it's illegally, in your opinion, illegally using the Atherton name run by 4 or 5 people who do not wish to be known, and this is not Atherton information. We owe it to the people of the town to at least let them know that.
Let's do it, and let's get started on shutting it down. And as far as I'm concerned, the mayor can, of course, address this. If we need to call a short special meeting to give you authority to do it, that's no problem.
I think we can start the process administratively. You know, Teresa has the authority to really do anything administrative, and I don't think that that's one that necessarily, that part of it doesn't necessarily require anything. The city council has to authorize what goes on the website, but I think Teresa can do it and come back and ask you to, I think we're not psychic in figuring out that that's something that the city council would probably like us to do. And while it's not on the agenda and you really shouldn't direct us, I think that Teresa can do that immediately, start that process and put something up on the website.
Okay.
Do you feel like you have authority? Okay.
And Bill, before you talk to Palo Alto, please understand that we get our IT services from the city.
That's true. I
So
wasn't.
they got money from us to answer your questions and work with you on that, so
Sure.
we reduce our.
Did we ever vote on the May 5th? Okay.
But we got a sidebar.
I think we take public comments on this?
No, we need to. We have a public comment. We have a public comment.
I just have the comment that if you post that on your website, it gives them publicity. Like, if I went there, I'd be like, ooh, it's on that page, and I would go look. So if you did the reverse and you just said, this site is the only site that's the official voice of Atherton, I think would be more compelling than saying they're bad, they're doing bad things, which would compel people to go look at their page, and it's free advertising. Build your site up and say, we're good, we're the true voice, ignore them.
All right, thank you. Did you want to make another comment, Charles?
Yes, I did.
Okay, because this was, please feel free. However, this is your same comment on the same subject.
No, you've actually, I think you really violated the Brown Act tonight because this is not on the agenda. So this is a comment on the website usage, not on the EPC. We've been talking about the website now for probably 15 minutes.